Welcome to the AirCon Vault, recordings of the live streams from Airigle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Game Audio Learning, Kilohertz, Audio Kinetic, Sound Cuts, Sugi, Boom Library, Sound Warriors, and Airigle's, the online home for audio people.
I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time looking down here at my other screen on my laptop, just to make sure, because I can see what you see like that. But hello everyone, thanks for coming along. Hope you're all doing well, having a good morning, or yeah, it's going to be morning as well in the States, I think, isn't it? So, today we are looking at the talk Garden Life, a deep dive into cozy audio, although I gave it a little extra subtitle the other day, squeezing a lot of sound out of a small garden, because you'll find that's a bit of a common theme. That's what I wanted to do a lot of during the audio work for this game. And my name's Benedict Sanderson, and I work for Still Alive Studios, based in Austria. Maybe I'll give it one more minute just to make sure. There's still a few people rolling in. Welcome everyone, and thanks for popping in. Hopefully this is somewhat interesting. Gosh, this is the first live streamy style talk I've done. Nerves. All right, okay. I think we'll get started. It's a bit of a slow start anyway. So, once again, Garden Life, deep dive into cozy audio, or squeezing a lot of sound out of a small garden. Let's go. So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm a sound designer at Still Alive Studios, and I've been there for 3 years now. In the past, I've worked on a bunch of little things, but in audio, I've worked in audio for maybe 5 years now. It's not a huge amount of time. I'm not some crazy veteran. But I've worked on a few different things, such as music session live performances, which were recorded to be put up on YouTube and stuff, like Mahogany Sessions, if you've heard of that. That's a big music series on YouTube. I've worked on a few VR projects and 360-degree films. Yeah, and the biggest games that I've worked on would be the Bus Simulator series with Still Alive. So the other things were freelance, but with Still Alive I've done that. So here we go. Just a little bit of what I've done. Music sessions, Mrs. Ben's, that was a VR interactive project, a couple Bus Simulator games, and of course Garden Life. I didn't put that on this slide, I thought that might be obvious. And the Bus Simulator games are with Still Alive Studios. Alright, so a little bit about Garden Life. What is Garden Life? I've ripped this text from the Steam page, the little bio that you get. It is a relaxing gardening game in which you create your dream garden in a peaceful, colourful world. Plant and add ornaments at your own pace, transforming an overgrown, forgotten plot into a flourishing community garden. And there's a little image of it there on the right. You can see there's a garden jam-packed with lovely stuff. All of it's been customised and decorated by the player. 5:30 for Josh, I'm sorry, but thanks for popping in. All right then. I've got a little bit of a gameplay video here. I've muted it, but just so you get an idea of what the game is and how it looks. So as you can see, it's first person. It's quite hands-on in that you're walking around doing the actions like digging things up, watering things, fertilizing, switching between items as you plant your seeds and place objects. You've got your bag there, which you can toggle around. And you're going to see some planting in a second. So he's moving a bit fast, this guy, isn't he? So we've got some frog statues that have been planted, a little pond there. You've got your stream. You're going to fill up your watering can from the stream here. Now, apologies if it's not a very good frame rate for you, but hopefully you get the idea of what it is. Essentially, it's a nice, calm-looking game, first-person view. And a really lovely art style, I think. It's somewhat watercolory in the colour scheme. It's not quite cel shaded, but it's very nice. So, alrighty. How do I skip? There we go. So, what is this talk going to be about? It's an overview of some of the audio systems in Garden Life, So this includes sound design, implementation, and music. There's going to be a lot of talk on planning and references and the decisions made, which I might waffle on a little bit about all the planning and stuff that happened, but I do so because it's very, very important and it helped me a lot. A look at the actual project. So I've got the Unreal Engine 5 project, the FMOD project open in the background, so I'll be opening them up and having a little dig around. Also a little bit of the documentation that we did on Confluence, which is like a big wiki that our development team used to write down what we were doing, to do research, so on and so forth. We'll look at how I did the footsteps using Unreal's blueprint system. We'll look at the ambience in the garden, which is parameter and distance driven. So lots of changes in the ambience as you move around, as different parameters change. So it's quite a dynamic sound. We'll have a look at the ambience transition system. Now this is quite a nice little thing. I won't spoil it now. We'll get to it later. For moving from one area to another, there's quite a nice little system for changing ambience. And the dynamic music system as well. So there's background music playing all the time, but well, it's dynamic. All right, so beginning. We're going to talk a good deal about planning and decisions. Now, there's going to be a little bit of overlap with one of the talks from yesterday from Rob, who did the composition for another wholesome, cozy game, which is a bit of a coincidence. But I'll try not to waffle on too much about all this because it's a little bit slow, but man, the planning and everything is very, very, very important to me, so I want to stress how important it was. So, what is the game and what kind of direction did we want to go in? It's a feel-good game, it's relaxing. There are no time limits, no harsh punishments for anything. The player's got to feel good as they're playing. It's dynamic and reactive, so things that the player does or things that happen in the game, like the weather changing and the time of day changing, you can hear this in different things in the game. So there's a lot going on, there are a lot of changes happening all the time. It's high quality. Well, it's not for me to say the sound is high quality, but the intention was for it to be damn good quality. I wanted it to be able to stand alongside the sound and the implementation of games such as Firewatch and Among Trees, which are very good nature-based games, and Gasp, Shock Horror, Animal Crossing as well. I wasn't really looking to live up to the quality of Animal Crossing because that's a bit insane, but it to me is like the gold standard in super polished, great sounding stuff, so I use that as a bit of a reference as well. Question from Siobhan. Yeah, okay, good. All these talks will be up later on, perhaps in a couple of months or so. Finally, the game's got to be cozy. Okay, similar to feel good and relaxing, but it's got to feel good. It's got to be cozy, it's got to be comfy, it's got to have no super harsh sound, it's got to be everything nice and bubbly and fun and nice. So, okay, they're the general ideas that I had. Let's go into some specifics. First of all, when the first demo was made, an internal demo for the game, I thought, you know what would be nice? It would be nice to have some kind of acoustic guitar music playing in the background, but something that changes quite a lot. And it is a tune with, you know, an A section and a B section and a C, but it jumps backwards and forwards in time quite a bit, and you never quite know what's going to happen next. And a lot of the phrases are going to sound different every time they come around, different performances on the guitar, for example. So I wanted it to be not a repetitive tune that loops every 3 minutes and that's it. I wanted it to be absolutely not repetitive because you're going to hear it a lot. The music wanted to interact with the SFX. I wanted to blur the line a little bit between diegetic and non-diegetic sound, and we'll hear that with a couple elements where things respond in the world to the music, for example. Of course, the music is a 2D thing playing in the speakers, it's not part of the world, but sometimes something in the world will play in response to the music, so there's a bit of a line blurring between the two. Very tactile and hands-on sound effects. As you hopefully saw in the video, it's quite hands-on the actions that you're doing. You've got your big shovel and you're digging stuff out of the ground, you're pulling roots out of the ground, you're watering things. So I wanted the sound to be very much like you're actually doing it. If you take Animal Crossing, for example, it's not very tactile sounding. There's a lot of funny little synth noises and whoop whoop kind of stuff. I wanted a bit less of that in this. I wanted it to feel really like you're doing the stuff. Elements of magic and fantasy and silliness. There's a lovely story in the game. There's a lovely, like, somewhat heartwarming story with some kind of element of magic and fantasy. And so I wanted to give the idea that this world has some elements of fantasy, and it's not a totally realistic world. So that can come out in the sound as well. So although the sounds are very tactile, there's lots of chunky earth and the soil moving and whatnot, there are also little sparkles and percussion instruments and stuff mixed in with it. And finally, not realistic, but believable. So it's detailed, and there's nothing that could take you out of the experience. There are no missing sounds, there are no sounds that don't sound right, there are no strange implementations where you think, oh, that's not right, that shouldn't have happened. While a lot of the sounds aren't what you'd expect to hear in real life, they're certainly the kind of things that you can believe are happening in the game. And it just makes sense, so it makes you feel properly engrossed and in the world of the game. And that's important. Realism wasn't a thing, but believability was very important. Okay, let's have some references. So I took loads of references for the game, and this is extremely important. I recommend everyone who works on sound for a game to do the same thing here, or to do something similar. I took video clips of lots of different things. I took video clips of music in games, of UI sound in games, of environments, of gameplay. I took good references of things which were great, and I wanted to emulate or even improve upon a little bit. I also took bad references. I'm not going to name any names, but it's good to know, it's good to see what kind of things aren't very good, what kind of things you notice as not very good, and avoid that when you're making your own thing. Here are some of the examples. There was Grow, Song of the Evertree. This is a, don't know how to describe it. It's a little bit action-adventure, a little bit Harvest Moon, a little bit exploration, but it's really, really punchy. Oh, thank you, everyone. Apparently my voice is very soothing. I'll do my best Bob Ross kind of style. So this game has really punchy, fantasy kind of sounds and really good UI sound and stuff as well. Very punchy, not what I wanted for this game, but still a very good reference. Hearthstone, very tactile sounds, all the cards moving and stuff like that, very good. Firewatch, as I said, great nature kind of stuff and exploration, walking around outside. Among Trees, very similar to Firewatch, also got great UI sound, very subtle, very nice. A Short Hike, fantastic music system in this game, with dynamic music that changes based on if you're flying, if you're in the air, or if you're in different subsections of other areas. And Animal Crossing, again, like I said, it's just got absolutely fantastic sound design in every way. Good grief, I'm struggling to concentrate with all the compliments on my voice. I'll certainly consider Goodnight Stories as a new career, yeah. Okay, so what did I do? I played the games, I recorded the screens, I edited into short clips the important bits that I wanted. So if I was recording a bit of Firewatch, listening to the environment as I went from inside to outside, I would record that. I wouldn't just have a 10-minute clip of me playing the game, I would kind of think about it a little bit and have something useful, because I'll be going back to these clips quite a lot to watch them, listen to them, and see how my game stacks up against it. And then I would analyse these clips, I'd write about them. I would note the good and the bad things that I came up with. So here's an example of something that I wrote on Firewatch. Here's a little video clip of the beginning of the game when you're picking up some items and stuff in your cabin and then you walk outside. It's nearly a 2-minute clip that I took. I watched it quite a few times after playing it and recording it. I noticed some things which I wrote about, for example, for the ambience, very lush, very clear, very nice, but there was always a stereo, unspatialized sound as part of the ambience bed. So what that would mean is it's like a 2D sound which doesn't react to you turning around, which is fine, absolutely fine. But I noticed as I was walking around, I could hear a little bird tweeting in my left headphone speaker. And then as I turn around, it would stay in my left. So it was 2D, not part of the world. Lots of other sounds, of course, were spatialized, and it was absolutely fantastic. And there's not a problem with doing it that way, having a 2D sound. But I thought to myself, you know what? That's something that I've noticed, and that's something that I'm going to try and upgrade a little bit. So I thought to myself, I'm going to make sure that's something I'll at least have a go at trying to avoid that and make it even more believable and immersive. I did also take some bad notes. Now, these notes are not about Firewatch or Among Trees. It's about another game, which I will not name. But for example, there was a single footstep sound for every surface that you were on. They had maybe 5 or 6 variations of the sound, but if you're on stone or grass or mud, it was always the same sound. As you pick up objects, it just goes whoosh, like a whoosh sound. Very good that I noticed these things and made sure I avoided them later. Again, these aren't part of the Firewatch or Among Trees or any of the other games that you've heard me mention so far. All right. So I recorded multiple things for different purposes. I looked at the environment, for example. For the environment, I took clips of Firewatch and Among Trees. For the UI, I took clips of Grow, Song of the Evertree, Among Trees, maybe Animal Crossing as well. For player actions, I took clips of Firewatch, Among Trees, Animal Crossings, because all these things excelled in different subjects. And I found it very helpful to separate it a little bit like that. And then on the right, you can see some of the different sections that I've got. I've got references for UI, I've got menu style UI sound references, I've got in-game style UI references. In-game UI being like, I don't know, in Dead Space or something like that. You've got it's not the pause menu UI, it's the terminals and stuff that you interact with, for example. I've got notes on wildlife, I've got notes on different styles of music implementation and music composition. And then I did the same thing for music, but for music systems, differently to music composition in itself, because I made the music for Garden Life as well, so that was important for me. So for music systems, I researched A Short Hike, as I said, Zelda Breath of the Wild, beautiful, I don't need to mention that, but ambient music going on all the time, kind of sparse. Animal Crossing as well, of course, especially in the museum. If you played Animal Crossing, when you go to the museum, the different parts of the museum, so like the fossil area, the insect area, the fish area, they play the same music but with different instrumentation, and that's something that I wanted to emulate. So I took clips of this and analysed that, how it worked. Then for music composition, now here's a bit of a weird list. Animal Crossing, listened to lots of that. Studio Ghibli stuff, in particular the soundtrack to Ocean Waves. First of all, if you've not seen Ocean Waves, watch Ocean Waves. Absolutely incredible. It's not by the same director who did a lot of the other stuff, Miyazaki. It's a bit different. The music in it is just fantastic, though. Yuichi Sakamoto, of course, pretty famous composer. Hiroshi Yoshimura, not so famous, but I'll show you an example of one of the albums he did, which I found very helpful. And then just a bunch of other weird stuff. XTC, they're a Britpop band from the 80s. Some light music. This is like 50s and 60s sweeping violin music. Plantasia, this is a synthesizer album done on the theme of plants. So I listened to a lot of stuff and I soaked up loads of different things. So that was what was important. So here I watched video essays on the music in Ocean Waves, on how the museum sounds in Animal Crossing, on the music system in A Short Hike by Scruffy. Very good videos. This is the album Green by Hiroshi Yoshimura. It's a synthesizer album, very calm and soothing, but with lots of wildlife and ambient sound in the background, a beautiful mix. Summer Place, a theme from A Summer Place, for example, that's sweet. You can imagine what it sounds like, a sweeping romantic music. Beautiful stuff, got lots of inspiration from it. And the pop rock XTC Britpop band from the 80s. Now, I didn't listen to them and think, oh yeah, I want to make music like this band for the game. But there were some things in there like interesting instrumentation, interesting song structure that I thought I could take. So soak up as much as you can because it's going to be helpful. A question from Heli. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. This planning and researching, it took a little while. I got the brunt of it done, I would say, in a couple weeks, maybe. Once you start by saying, okay, well, I know I want this kind of thing from this game, and I know I want that, it snowballs from there, and it's easy to find lots of other things. Ask other teammates and whatnot, what games, for example, oh, we're working on Garden Life now. Hey teammates, what kind of games do you work on? What kind of games does it remind you of? And they'll say Harvest Moon, they'll say Animal Crossing, they'll say House Flipper Garden Edition, all that kind of stuff. So it snowballs from there. I spent a good while on it, a couple of weeks, but luckily it was right near the beginning of the project, and I was lucky enough to work on the project for the entire duration, almost. So at the beginning, when there wasn't that much in the game yet, I had a lot of time to research, and then later on there was stuff ready for me to implement. Cool. All right then, that is enough of that waffle about planning and stuff. Let's move on to the footstep system. So, this is the first simple thing that I did, and I did something a little bit nice with it. Now, hopefully, by doing this, I'm not trying to say, oh, look how fantastic I did something, but hopefully I can give you some little ideas of how little tweaks can be made to spice up normal systems. Oh, is that height? There we go. Thank you, Lewis. I thought it was just an overlay for me. Okay, so your character has no character model or animations, that you're just an invisible thing. So the footsteps aren't tied to an animation that you can attach them to. At the start, the footstep system was, oh, maybe your name's pronounced Louis then, instead of Lewis. if you're replying in French style. So at the start, the footstep system was very simple. The player's distance travelled is tracked as you're going along, and every time you reach a threshold of, let's say, 1 meter, a sound is triggered. Cool, simple. But I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting, so just by playing around with it and thinking and making this system myself in the blueprints, I realised what kind of things were possible, what kind of variables could be passed around in different places. So I experimented and I came up with a nice little system. So the FMOD side of this was very simple. I check the physics material under your feet. Is it grass? Is it stone? Is it tarmac? Is it wood? And I play the corresponding sound. We can see that here in this FMOD event. This whole event is played and the correct parameter is passed through. Grass, tarmac, stone, wood, so on and so forth. But I noticed that if you turn on the spot, no sound is made. I thought, you know what, that would be nice to just turn with the mouse, not actually walking, and occasionally hear a footstep sound, because that's what happens in real life. You're not an owl or something that you can just infinitely rotate. So I thought, you know what, that is a little upgrade that I'm going to add to this system. Blueprint time. All right, we're going to have a look at Unreal after a little drinky. Thirsty work, this. Okay, here we are. So here's the game. We are in Engine. All company secrets about to be spilled. The hell's this arrow? Looks like a YouTube thumbnail. So here we are. Here's the garden. And this is the blueprint for the player character. And all this brown stuff here is the footstep stuff. I'm not going to go into detail about how blueprints work, but we can very briefly look at what I do. So in this first section here, we got the distance travelled parameter, and that gets incremented as long as you're moving. So we've got this location here. Can you see it okay? Please let me know if it's not like blurry or something, or if I'm moving around too fast. Hopefully you can see it clearly enough. I'll try not to move around too much. So we've got the player's last known location here, and then the player's current location after they've moved. We find the distance between the two, and this becomes distance travelled, and we add this to your overall distance travelled parameter. And in a second, this gets printed to the screen. Ooh, thank you everyone. This gets printed to the screen, so we can see that in a second. And then finally, the last known location is updated to this current location that you're at now. Okay, then it gets repeated and stuff, blah, 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 other stuff. We check if the stride length has been reached. So I set a stride distance of, I think it's 190 Unreal units, whatever that is. I think it's supposed to be centimeters, but it doesn't look like it when you're actually playing the game. Maybe the scale of everything is a little bit different. So once you have passed the distance of a stride, then the footstep event gets triggered. All right, let's have a look at this. What happens here then? So we detect the surface, we do a ray cast, we check down underneath the character, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We check what the physics material is. I'm skimming through this because this is a pretty simple footstep system that you can find in a million other YouTube videos, so I'm not going to waste time on this. We check, oh, is it grass? Then output 0. If it's tarmac, output 1. If it's stone, output 2. And finally, we play the sound, we play footsteps master FMOD event, and we set its parameter, its surface parameter, to this number here. Okay, that's all pretty standard, really. Again, sorry I'm not going into too much detail, but this isn't a super beginner kind of look at how blueprints and all that lot work, but I'm sure there are a billion tutorials for this. So where does that interesting thing come in? Oh, actually, let's have a look at it first. So if I play the game, in the top left corner, you should be able to see a little blue piece of text. Hopefully it's not too loud. Please do let me know if the music's too loud. Saying distance travelled 1.82, and as I walk, it goes up and down like that. Right now, I've travelled 175, and if I slowly walk 180, 184, 189, then the footstep triggers and it goes back down to 0. That's all it is, as I walk. Great. The mic is low against the game music. Tell you what, I'll pop to the mixer, turn on, oh, I'll do that in a second. I'll tone that down a little bit in here. I can definitely turn the music down as well. The music's not important right now. Okay, so what do I do? What's this whole interesting thing that I'm talking about? Well, here I've got the... this is detecting when player input is received on the looking around kind of variety. So if you're using the mouse to look around, or if you're using the right stick to do it. One moment, a question from Sam Dixon. You've always set the parameter before playing the event, after creating it, of course. Is there a benefit of setting it after playing? In FMOD at least, what happens here is that I play an instance of the footsteps master, and then I can save, like, this is the instance here, and I can access this instance. So this specific instance that I've created, I set the parameter on it. If I didn't do it like that, then I don't have an instance of the sound to set the parameter on. I could have an FMOD component that always exists here, and I just tell it to play or something, but that is one way of doing it, yes. What I've done instead, which I think is a bit more performant technically, is I spawn a sound at the moment, and then I look at that instance and I give that the correct parameter, and it doesn't play the sound first and then set the parameter. So there's not like a chance it will play the default value and then suddenly switch to the correct parameter version. It's not going to do anything like that. It works perfectly like this. But with FMOD at least, if you want to spawn a sound, have it then be destroyed afterwards, so you're not taking up extra resources. This is the best way to do it, I found. Hopefully that is clear enough. If not, ask me again later and I'll come back to it once I've finished. So anyway, apologies. I'm back here. So every time input is noticed on the mouse or with the right stick on your controller, there's the little right stick action, just the x-axis degrees or whatever that you've moved is taken, and then it is added to distance travelled. There you go. So we can basically see this here. If I were to look up and down, distance travelled doesn't, it does change a tiny bit because I can't move my hand perfectly vertically. There we are, that should be better. But as I turn around, the value is changing. So essentially it, about every half turn that you do, it plays a sound. Yeah, maybe you'd expect it to be a little bit more often, but I found this was nice and comfy. I didn't see any reason to change it. And if I do it up and down, it's not really changing because I'm only listening for the the horizontal motion. I do multiply it by a modifier here because the number of degrees or whatever that you turn is very, very small. Without multiplying it by a modifier to make it bigger, you'd have to do like 4 full turns before a footstep triggers, which is a little bit daft, I thought. But yeah, this is a very simple way to add this. A nice little extra bit of detail, and my favourite thing that came from it is that you can act like an undecisive little dude by... Oh, whoops. There we go. If I turn down some of the other things, I'm going to turn up the SFX. Oh no. Turn down the environment. Turn up the SFX. Now, if you walk and turn around at the same time, the footsteps trigger quite quickly, which I think is quite cute. It's like you're indecisively go, oh, where am I going? Pitter patter, pitter patter. Especially when it's raining. You get a little splish splash, splish splash, which is very nice. Yeah. So that was a nice little thing there. Cool. Okay then. Let's put some of this stuff back. Right, I have got to get a move on because I'm going slowly. And I've got a lot to say. Let's go back to the presentation. So, I'll very quickly skim through this. We track how far the player's moved, add this distance to distance travelled, trigger a sound event once the distance travelled reaches a threshold, track the x-axis motion on the mouse or the right stick and the units rotated, and add this, well, multiply it by 4 or something before adding it to distance travelled. If you're currently walking, only multiply it by 3 or something smaller. This is because when you're walking and turning, the distance travelled thing speeds up really quickly, and you'll be taking footsteps like really, really quickly. So a different modifier is applied based on if you're walking or not. Yeah, and finally in the footstep event, check what material is under you and blah, blah, blah. Cool. Apologies again if I'm skimming through this quickly, but let's go. Dynamic music time in FMOD. Here we are. This is a bit of fun. So, I'll open up the FMOD project in a second. I'll give you a very quick look at some of the things to look out for. We got parameters used. I've blurred out some of them here, but we got things like 2B, time of day, raining, the tool season. These are all things which are used to trigger different events or change levels and stuff in different events. Yellow nested events. As this playhead reaches the yellow nested events, the yellow event loads and plays and does what it wants to do. And you can open up each of these netted events. They're all events within events within events, which all have their own logic and stuff in them. Okay, and they have different trigger requirements to actually play. The blue loop regions, the playhead, this blue region here, the playhead will get stuck inside it. Can you see my mouse actually? I hope you can. Yes, you should be able to. So the playhead will get stuck in this blue loop region. But as you can see, this first one is selected here, and at the bottom we've got some little options for this first blue loop region. There's a 35% chance that this will play. So that means at the very beginning, when the event is first triggered, there's a chance it will just loop in there a little bit before going out and actually starting to play the music. There's a chance it will go infinitely. But let's not talk about that. That doesn't happen. Markers and transitions, that's these green things. This one here, for example, it says to marker A. Once the playhead reaches this, it will jump to marker A. Once the playhead reaches one of these C things, it will jump to marker C. But they have different probabilities and stuff on them as well, or certain parameters need to be certain values for the jumps to occur. Oops, different trigger conditions. Yes, yeah, there we are. All right, let's go. FMOD time. Guitar demo. So, we're just going to look through this and see how I got some of the nice variation and randomness working. Let's play. So we're in the loop region, we loop once, we don't loop twice, and we get ready to hear A. Cool, so we've got different stuff happening in this A section. We've got a bird response here. Oh, we didn't hear it, I wonder why. Maybe we'll find out later. So here we are, the blue loop region triggered, so there's a nice long pause between the next section. B, slightly different timing on the low note there, a little high embellishment, and then a swell. One of these things, neither of these got triggered, so now we're going to have a little loop here, and to marker A will most likely trigger. Once the looping is done, there we are. So we basically just played the same phrase again. We'll have the swell again. Now let's see if this one happens. We've got a 33% chance of this happening, or this one will override it. There we are. Different little embellishments and swells every time. And then we're coming up to the D section. Now these things here are actually, they've all got the volume down to 0. They're just in place there still as a little reference for myself. Well, that's lovely. Tell you what, let's have a little look inside this D event and see what's actually going on, what's actually being triggered. Now I'm going to turn this... Do I need to turn this up or down? No. So, on audio 1, on the first track, we've got this thing, and it's got 3 choices of a different phrase to play. It's all the same phrase, just different performances. So we got... Great, and it's always allowed to hang out, to play out naturally till it fades out naturally. The second one, same thing, just a different performance. This one, slightly different performance. Now I decided to do this because the feeling that I wanted from the game really is that when you're chilling in your garden, you're pottering around, you know, moving some plants around and stuff, I wanted it to feel like the music was almost coming from like a friend of yours sitting in the corner on a little garden chair with his guitar, and he's just noodling around, coming up with a tune. Maybe he's writing a new tune for himself or something, and he's just experimenting with the timing every now and then. He's thinking, oh, maybe this section should come after that. Maybe the timing should be a bit different. I'll play it this way now. I'm going to let that hang out a little bit longer. It's very, very flexible feeling, but it's still a tune with the same riff going on, which is usually followed by the same riff, and maybe it will then go into the bridge section. You don't quite know. You can always kind of follow it, but you never really know what's going to happen next. And ideally, you would agree that it sounds quite human. So for example, in this we got one of these 3, then we got a high embellishment. Oh, I like that one, slidey electric guitar. Another high embellishment. That was just 2 strings playing the same note. Another high embellishment. Acoustic guitar playing high notes. Yeah, and then we finish the phrase. And then I've got this thing here, trumpet theremin. What on earth is that? That sounds like fun. Let's have a look. Well, you can see it's being loaded. It's lighting up. The little playhead is going through there. But it's not making any sound. Let's have a look inside and see what it is. Now, FMOD has these things called command instruments, which are little logic things in FMOD. Usually FMOD is told to play an event, or told the time of day is this, therefore turn down the volume or something. But you can also create variables and parameters in FMOD and control them totally all within FMOD. And that's what I'm doing here. If we look at this trumpet instrument here, it's got something in its trigger behavior. It's only going to play if the parameter 0 trum ther, 0 trumpet theremin, is set to 1. And the possibilities for it, it's up here as well, are 0 or 1 or 2. 0 corresponding to nothing, 1 corresponding to play trumpet, 2 corresponding to play theremin. So this trumpet thing will only play if it is set to 1, and this theremin line will only play if it is set to 2. All right. So how do I set these parameters and make sure these sounds actually play? I use these things here, these command instruments. Now, if I were to zoom in a little bit, maybe, yeah. So this one here is setting the parameter 0 trum ther to 1. So when the playhead reaches this, it will set the parameter to 1 and it will play the trumpet line. But only, here we are, we've got more trigger behavior, only if the time of day is from 4:30 to 7. That is essentially evening time. This means that what I wanted to happen when the end of the day is starting to come and this phrase gets triggered, an extra little phrase, a nice little trumpet line will come in and play. It's like it's ushering in the end of the day and it's calming you down before you start the next day. Fabian, this video will be available in a couple months' time or so. They will all be uploaded to the AirWiggle site, but not immediately, unfortunately. So, if the time of day is late enough, the trumpet will play. Great. Hang on, we've got another one here. What's this doing? This is also setting 0 trumpet theremin to 2. So hang on, we're overriding what we've just done. Hang on, we've got a trigger condition. If 0 trumpet ther is already 1, therefore if the time of day is late enough, and if the tool season parameter is autumn. So if you're holding a tool in your hand with a seasonal theme of autumn, which means Halloween, essentially, there are Halloween-themed tools in the game, then it'll be set to 2, and the theremin variation will play. So we can see this here, we can try it. If the time of day is 2 o'clock in the afternoon and we play, nothing happens. If we set the time of day to 6 o'clock, there we are, we saw the parameter change, and there's the lovely little trumpet line, beautiful. And then if we turn the time of day earlier and set tool season to autumn, nothing will happen because it wasn't originally set to 1. But if we set the time of day late enough and the tool season to autumn, I am going to warn you, it's a little bit spooky, this. So we get the same thing played by the trumpet. Oh, hang on, I've changed tool. Back to the trumpet. And I've changed tool again to autumn. And we're back again to the theremin. Now, why did I do it like this? Why didn't I just say, well, if the time of day is late enough, turn up the volume. If the time of day is not late enough, turn down the volume of the track. I didn't want this phrase to be triggered, have the playhead moving along it, and then halfway through, if the time becomes 4:30, for it to fade up. I didn't want you to be able to hear half the phrase. I wanted the decision to be made at the very beginning of the phrase. Is it late enough? Yes or no? If so, play the whole thing. Play all or nothing. So I was able to do that using the command instruments, keeping this little contained logic system all in FMOD, which I thought was fantastic because it saves having to have lots of different logic stuff going on, half in blueprints, half in different components in actors in Unreal, half in FMOD. It's very nice having it all here, and it also makes it convenient actually for when other people, teammates, for example, might open up the project and want to work on. Having stuff as contained as possible I find very helpful, because it leads to less searching around and wondering, how the hell does this work? All right, hopefully that wasn't too convoluted and confusing. But there we go, there we go. that is essentially the music system. Unfortunately, I can't go on too much longer talking about it, but all the different tracks... I'm wrong. There is something else I've got to say. We've got to talk about this bird response that we missed earlier. So here we are playing the first phrase, and then this should play, but we can't hear it. Oh, spooky. So why can't we hear it? Well, if we go into it, we can see that, like an absolute muppet, I've left the master fader down. Silly me, turn it back up again and we got it, haven't we? Wrong. I am a muppet, but not this time. What's going on here is this sound is being triggered in time with the music when I want it to be triggered in the master event, so as the playhead reaches this part. And let's have a little listen to it first. Oh, it's too late in the day. Look, it only triggers if it's not evening. Oh, the master fader's still down. Oh, God. So that's a little bird responding to part of the music. First question, how the hell did I get a bird to respond to the music? Well, it's not a bird. It's me! Haha, fooled you. Yeah. Doesn't sound super authentic, but it's good enough for the game. So what happens is, I'm going to turn this back down. I'm going to turn this, I'm going to just undo a lot until we're back to where we were. We're using an FMOD transceiver. An FMOD transceiver is like a one-way walkie-talkie, which sends audio from one event to another event. So this means you can have sound triggered based on timing or parameters or something in one master event, and then, instead of playing the audio through that event and its location, you can send it to another event, somewhere else, placed on the map, wherever, and then the sound actually comes out of that. That's very nice. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do to blur the lines a little bit between diegetic and non-diegetic sounds in the game. So, let's think. So if I were to play this, we can see it's metering. It's very quiet, but that's okay. It gets turned up again later. It's metering and it's being transmitted to channel 2. Where the hell is this channel 2? It's in Summer Wildlife. Now, first of all, I'll show you in the Unreal project. This event, Summer Wildlife, exists here in the garden. If I search FFX wildlife, here it is. It's way off over here, kind of in the forest. So a lot of the sounds, extra ambient sounds, come from the forest, way off in the distance. You can hear crickets and whatnot, away from where the road and these houses and stuff are, for example. So that's where I want the bird sound to come from. So we've got all these different things, like different ambience files, a morning ambience, a noon ambience, an afternoon ambience, blah, blah, blah. And then we've got this track here, music, animal, receiver. Lo and behold, we have a receiver on it, receiving from channel 2. So let's test it. I'm going to put a loop region on this, so this thing plays continuously. It's going to keep playing in the background. I'm going to come here, play the event, and here we are, you can hear it. If I turn off this transceiver, we stop hearing it coming through this Summer Wildlife event. So this means that the bird plays in response to the music, but the bird is placed in the world. Lovely. It's almost like he's singing along with you. So if I were to get rid of that again, yep, we can hear it now. If I were to start the game, you'll hear the first little riff, do, 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 and then later you'll hear, unfortunately the stream's in mono, so you won't be able to hear it coming from that direction, but you will hear the bird sing in response to the tune. I haven't muted the music, have I? Ready? There he is. Cool. So, I do that with a few things. I do that with crickets and frogs responding to the music. I do that with wind going in between musical phrases just to fill up the space a little bit. I do it quite a lot, and transceivers are lovely. So, please do tell. I can see my noise indicator lighting up quite a lot as I'm not even speaking. So please tell me if there's loads of noise coming through or something like that. But hopefully it's okay. All right then, back to the presentation. Good grief, we've got a bit more to go. I'm sorry, everyone. So that's essentially what it was. Bird call gets played at an event, it's sent via transceiver, and then the actual event that the bird exists on is set to 0. The transceiver is like a pre-fader send. Thank you, everyone. Finally, on another event, a listener event is placed on the tree, for example, in the forest. A transceiver is receiving that sound. You must make sure, be careful with this. FMOD, if an event is told to play, but no sound is detected through it, FMOD will cull it to save on resources. So either make sure that the sound always has some other sound playing in it, or a loop region or something, so that the playhead is always stuck and moving, or just set it to be persistent. Down here in the master track controls, we've got a little button saying persistent. This just means when this event is told to play, it won't automatically cull, be culled. It will keep playing, be active and listening for things coming into it, for example. All right. Okay, so then I've got an ambience transition system. Now this is something that I'm pretty proud of. As you can imagine, you spend a lot of time in the garden. Ambience plays a very important part. It's a very small area, as you've seen, just around the shed and the greenhouse, but it's full to the brim of sounds and ambient audio. Glug, glug, glug. Particularly nice is the shed ambience while it's raining. It's raining and you go inside and you hear like the pitter-patter of the rain on the roof when you're inside. So I wanted to make sure that it was done justice, so that as you move in and out of the shed, it sounds good. Here's an image of the garden. And the first thing I thought to do, of course, was a pretty classic system of having audio volumes. So as you walk into this big cubic volume or cylindrical volume in the shed, it detects that and it fades out the ambient sound from the garden and fades in the ambient sound from the building, whichever building you're in. But that means if you were to walk in really quickly, you would hear over 1 second the sound change, and the sound changes over exactly 1 second every time. And that's especially naff for the shed because after 2 steps you're already fully in the shed, and you don't want to wait a second to hear the sound come in. You want it to be really reactive to your position. So what did I do? I wanted to do something better than this standard classic little thing. I wanted to move between 2 volumes. Oh no, sorry, this is what I wanted to avoid, what I just described. Moving between 2 things and fading one sound into another. Kind of like this. Imagine you've got 2 boxes and as you move from one end to the other, the sound changes. So I wanted position-based fade from one sound to another. I wanted you to be able to slowly walk from one to the other and slowly hear the sound of one get louder and one get quieter. And if you stand right in the center, you'll hear both. Ideally, you'll hear the shed on one side in one speaker and the garden in the other. Which is what portaling is. No, it's not what portaling is. Similar to what portaling is. And portaling is something that Wise has a system for it built in. Unfortunately, FMOD doesn't, so I had to hack my own system for that. Where as you walk in the greenhouse, you can still hear the sound of the outside ambience, but it's been collapsed to the doorway. You can hear it. You can hear the rain coming through the doorway, and then as you get to the doorway and walk outside, this collapsed sound spreads out and envelops the player, so it's all around you again. And then as you go back inside, back down to the doorway. I don't know why I'm using this as a prop now. Oh, it's toasty. This is kind of a visual representation of it. Like, the green URL. Oh yeah, why is it green? This is, yes. Yes, let me paste that. Tell you what, I'll post them both. Ooh, come on. I don't want to actually follow the link though. These are the two links. They're just links to the images, really. But I do recommend Alessandro Fama. He is a fantastic audio guy for games. No problemo. So, where were we? Oh no, I pressed the wrong shortcut. We were here. But they're just links because that's where I found the images. So you can kind of, this is kind of what's going on. It's like the sound is coming through this green portal area, and then the yellow semicircle-y area, this is where the sound of the outside can be audible using normal distance attenuation that you would expect. As you get really far away from the door, you won't hear the sound coming through it anymore. Wow, whatever. Control click to not leave the stream. Yes. All right, so what did I do? Imagine we've got the garden on the left and the shed on the right. And imagine the player is currently in the shed, and then you've got this point on the door threshold between the two areas. We measure the distance between the two. We constantly measure how far away you are from this door threshold. And from this, we get all sorts of different parameters. It's going to get a little bit convoluted here. We got distance to the shed threshold while you're inside, interior. So as you're walking around inside the shed, the distance to the shed thingy threshold is tracked. We got the distance to the shed when you're exterior, when you're outside. So when you're outside the shed, then this parameter gets updated instead. So it's a different one being updated for if you're inside or you're outside. We have distance to the shed threshold when you're inside. Fast. Now this means in FMOD we have different, we have seek speeds, which means if I were to change, let me find a nice parameter. Here we are, footsteps master. If I were to play this, I don't know if I can show this very easily actually. Have a look at this up here. In Leslie's shop parameter here, if I turn it up, if the game instantly tells FMOD to set this parameter from 0 to 1, you see this little yellow thing is moving really slowly. That's because it's got a seek speed applied to it. It's like slowly lerping to it, and I've set this speed in FMOD. And then if I go down, it goes much faster. So this parameter, I've got a different seek speed for changing this parameter fast or slowly. So that's what this is. This is a duplicate of the parameter, checking the same measurements, but snapping down quickly. And the interior and exterior ones, maybe they take a second or two just to lerp, to give it, to smooth the value a bit. Of course, I've got the same thing for exterior, but fast. And I've got is in shed as a boolean, 0 or 1. I've got variations on all these things for the greenhouse as well. So yes, it's complicated. Yes, there's a lot here. I'm not expecting everyone to go, oh, this is really simple. But I'm going to talk about how it was a problem later on. I'm going to go over time. Apologies, everyone. This is going to go on a little bit longer. Sorry. So what's happening is I used all these different values to drive the FMOD spatializer and the 2D pan mix setting on the spatializer. Let's have a quick look at that. So if I go to the greenhouse ambience track, it's not very exciting. I'm going to turn this up for now. Essentially what's happening is, this spatializer is a thing where if this is put on the end of an event, this is what gives it location in the world, and as you move further away from it, you hear it fade out because you're far further away from it. It's making it a non-2D sound, it's putting it in the world. And this 2D pan mix here, what this is doing, if this gets turned up to thingy, to 100%, it is now not actually using the spatializer, but it is being fed directly into the left and right speakers, or the 5.1 system, whatever you're using. So it's overriding any spatialization and distance attenuation and stuff like that. And you can hear this because if I put this down to 0 and move this around, this doesn't do anything because, well, the spatializer is being used. The sound will come from its location in the world. If I turn this up to 100%, now I have the choice to feed this sound directly into the speaker that I want. So you can hear it coming from the left. Now I can hear it coming from the right. I'm sorry that you can't. Again, now it's down to 0. It's going to come from its location in the world, as it should. So this is useful because this is the thing that I said earlier about the sound being able to be collapsed to the door threshold, and then as you move outside, the ambient sound of the outside area, this gets turned up, and so therefore the sound becomes all around you. It's no longer being spatialized onto one location. Yes. It's a bit tricky to explain. I can kind of show you. Unfortunately, I can't show you like a blueprint of all this logic because one of my lovely programmer teammates put it all into C++, so it's a bit more performant. But hopefully that, at least in theory, makes some sense. And I can kind of show you. I'm going to undo a bit so this is back to where it should be. Yep. Now, if I were to start a new profiler session, I'll search for the Ambience thingy. I'll have a look at this. I'll go into the game. I'll play the game. I'll move the game window over here so we can see the profiler at the same time. And I will record. That's the wrong thing. I wanted Ambience master. Navigate to the profiler track. Yep. So we can see all these different parameters down here. As I move further to closer to the greenhouse, distance to the greenhouse parameter starts going up and down. As I move inside, you'll see an is in greenhouse slowly go up to 1. You see it slowly going up to 1. And then another parameter, distance to the greenhouse threshold while inside, moves up and down. So I've split up all these different measurements into different parameters. Same thing happens with the tree. There's one called distance to tree. You can see that moving very slightly towards the right-hand side because the wind sound in the ambience is louder, like the wind rustling through the leaves, depending on the distance to the tree. When you get closer to the shed, here we are, more parameters start moving around and being updated. And you can hear, if I am to do some epic hacks, I'll set it to raining. There is the sound, unfortunately mono, of the rain on the roof. And using all these different parameters, you hear it very smooth, and personally I think it is a beautiful transition from inside to outside. And if I stand on the threshold, I hear both. When I'm under the tree, using this parameter, I hear more snapping, crackling sounds of water hitting branches and stuff. As I get over here, I hear rain on the roof. And then as I get closer to the interior, I hear the sprinklers and the fans. And now, I can hear the outside rain ambience coming from the doorway. From my left, from my right. I'm sorry again that you can't hear that. But yeah. This is a flipping smooth sound, I think. Jonathan, how did you manage to make the ambience of the exterior? You don't use portals for the exterior. I do use portals. I started by just having a quad file ambience happening all around you, but then I had to do everything through portals in the end because unfortunately with transceivers in FMOD, if you play the ambient sound placed on the map and then you also send that ambient sound through a transceiver to be played by a receiver, it introduces lag. It introduces 1 frame of latency. And then you get phasing issues, which is pretty horrible. So all the ambient sound is played via these receivers. 1 receiver on the greenhouse, 1 receiver on the shed. Yes, and then the spatializer 2D pan mix thing is what I use to make sure when you're outside, when you're not in one of the buildings, then it is spatializers not being used, so you hear it everywhere. And then when you're inside, it gets collapsed to one of those doorways. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, I'll probably hang around in the Hangout section after this because I've got time. Okay, Sam Dixon question, are those water hitting roof and leaf sounds spatialized as well? Yes, they are. The water hitting the roof sound here is attached to a spline on top of the roof. Are you talking about the exterior or interior sounds? If you're talking about the interior sounds, then I believe they are just part of the... Oh, I'm not sure. They are part of the general ambience event. If it's raining, yeah, here it is. Exactly, so there is a quad file playing and a stereo file playing. Like that. And it gets turned up and down, it's faded in and out using the raining parameter here. And yeah, they're not point sources. They're part of the general ambient sound, which gets collapsed and uncollapsed based on your position using the master track spatializer. Again, not a very super clear in-depth answer, but I hope that explains. If not, please get in touch later on and I'll be very happy to talk through it in a bit more detail. Okay, let's get a move on. So when outside, this is, I've said all this. The spatializers, maybe it's easier to read it. When you're outside the shed, oh, good grief. The spatializer 2D pan mix is set to 0, meaning it's spatialized and coming from the doorway. I can't remember what I'm talking about here. When you're outside the shed, the spatializer's 2D pan mix is set to 0. This is the sound of the shed's ambience, yes. So it is spatialized and coming from the door threshold, meaning it's spatialized coming from the doorway. As you approach the shed, the sound of the shed ambience becomes louder because you're getting closer and it's got a spatializer on it with distance attenuation. And then when you're finally inside, the further you move in, the higher the 2D pan mix sound becomes, so the sound envelops you and is no longer stuck on the door threshold. Okay, Jonathan Ursa, another question. So there are 3 blocks or portals, if I understand. There are 2. There are 2 portals. There's 1 on each door threshold. Oh, have I frozen? Hello. Hopefully not. Oh wow, but maybe I have frozen. I don't know what to do about that. That's all right, you don't need to see me. So, we've already seen it. Okay. I'll turn on and off my camera for a moment, but it seems to be okay on my side. Anyway, we got more to talk about, just a little bit. So, in the end, was this worth it? This is a flipping complicated little system that I made. I was very happy with it and the sound of it, but it took quite a while to get right. There were lots of FMOD peculiarities to discover and consider. For example, that thing about having an event set to persistent so that a receiver on it is not going to get culled by FMOD's culling system, blah, blah, blah. That caught me out for like a day or something, trying to work out why the hell sound was sometimes coming through and sometimes wasn't. In the end, it's not super noticeable. I notice it, but I think a lot of players wouldn't really notice it. So all in all, it was a lot of effort for a not super noticeable effect. So I thought, well, what can I do about that? That's a shame. I'm going to leave it in, obviously, I love it, but I'll use the system again with different sounds. So, I knew from the start that I wanted different variations on the village tune in the style of the museum in Animal Crossing. In Animal Crossing, as I said earlier, as you go through the museum into the different areas, different music can be... The same tune is heard, but with different instrumentation. When you're in the art gallery, it's all classical music, violins and stuff, like a string quartet. When you're in the, I don't know, insect area, it's got different instruments. So I wanted to use this system that I had with the music, because that would be really noticeable. Alejandro says that he thinks it's good. They didn't know. Thank you, man. Yes. Exactly. If it isn't noticeable, then at least it's not wrong, yeah, and it sounds natural. So let's have a look at what I did here. First, I need to make this full screen again. I need to go to the... Oh no, I don't need to do that. I need to play the game and go to the village. And this might take a second to load. You know, set the weather back to normal. Default, yes. Just a second. I think today I'll take the bike. Ding ding. So here I am in the, well, in a second. It takes a while to load when you're in the editor. Takes just a second in the actual game. Come on. So I'm doing the same thing here. I've got the music thing. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mute the environment sound for this one. So we hear just the music. So I've got a nice groovy little tune. This one, I didn't want it to be like your friend sitting in the corner of the garden. This one's a groovy little track. So as you go in the shop, I wanted there to be different instrumentation. And what you can hear is, I split the different parts. I split each track into two different parts. So this is the main track. We got the piano and the drum track, and then on top of that we have the guitar line. That's the melody. So that guitar line is the main track. And when you're in the shop, you've got the chalumeau playing. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's similar to a clarinet, with other things like bongos and whatnot. And as we get closer to the doorway, there we go, we can hear some chalumeau coming in. Of course, I'm sorry again, you can't hear it because it's in mono for you, but I can hear it coming from my right very clearly. So it's almost like someone's playing in the shop, and it is beckoning me in. So, oh, I wonder what's going in there. Now we hear the other stuff start to fade out, but the closer I get to the actual shop counter, there we go. We're always handsome people. Now if I turn the sound effect back on, you'll hear him go ribbit. Hopefully. So yeah. So and as I get over here, you hear the music. The guitar and the drums and stuff got to come in, the bongos and whatnot are gone. And from here, the chalumeau is audible from the left again. Cool. And that is just, honestly, one of the smoothest transitions, I think, that I've heard for this kind of stuff. And even when you get over here, ooh, I can hear some distant trumpet. I wonder what could be in there. Well, you just have to play the game to find out. Haha. See, it's very directional as well. Cool. We can very briefly see what's going on in there if I were to open up the village tune thing. I can't remember what I named it. Village Masters? Yes, here we are. So we got the Market Ambience Master. So I got... Oh no, that's the Ambience. Music receiver, market receiver, where the hell is it? So here somewhere, market, there we are. So in here I've got all the different tracks split up. I've got the main track, I've got the lo-fi rain track, I've got the track in the one that we just heard with the Chalumeau, I've got the pavilion track with the trumpet and stuff, and yeah, I can't show you any of these right. Well, look, they've all got the volume right down on them. But because they're all using this same transceiver thing, this is being sent to transceiver 5. The rain track is being sent to transceiver 5 as well, because it's the same thing, it's just a rain variation of that track. The Leslie's tune is being sent to 6, because this is what exists on the door threshold to the shop. They're all being sent to different things and using different parameters, such as distance to the shops and whatnot, to turn up and down different things. And it's a little bit tricky. If I'm going to be honest, I can't remember 100% what I did, so I can't really say right now, but it does sound good. So these tracks, oh, I know what's happening. These tracks are all being sent all the time. They're always being sent to their appropriate things. And then we've got the music receiver on Leslie's shop, and this only receives the Chalumeau when, for example, the distance to the shop when you're outside is following this curve. So all the receivers are receiving different information on when they should be receiving the appropriate sound. So I think that is enough waffling. Let's have a look quickly at the pros and cons of it. So this transition system that I had is perfect for a small-scale game like Garden Life, especially as each environment had a main area, the garden, and only 2 or 3 smaller areas, the greenhouse and the shed. The fast and slow variations of the parameters allowed for other cool functionality, one of which I forgot to show you. I'll do that very, very quickly. As I said earlier, you remember some parameters snap up quickly, some parameters take a long time to go down. This is a side effect kind of parameter. Let me change the mix a little bit quickly. So you can hear my squelchy footsteps, and as I walk around in here, because it's raining, you'll hear my footsteps stay wet for a while. And then they dry out. And this is because they're using, when I instantly go outside, instantly becomes wet, the raining on foot parameter instantly changes. But when I go inside, I have it very slowly go down, so that the rain element of the footsteps lingers, essentially. And that was just a side effect, because I noticed, hang on, I've got all these cool parameters checking the distance when you're inside, the distance when you're outside, if you're inside, if you're out, blah, blah, blah. Let's use it for other things. And I thought that's a very nice little extra thing to be able to have. Subtle, but yeah, it's there. Cool. Okay, now let's get ready to finish. So for example, the fast variations of these parameters changing, they would silence the river while you're inside. So when you're in the shed right next to the little stream, this would ensure that the moment you get inside, you're not going to hear the stream anymore. And allowing the wet footsteps to play, that's the slow variation. So it allows that parameter to continue making changes to the sound over time. And overall, it sounds great. I am very happy with how it sounds. Cons, it was really fiddly. Really, really, really awkward to set up. Positioning the doorway emitter in the exact right position on the door threshold, for example, damn, pain in the arse, I'm going to be honest, getting it just right. Each transition required multiple curves working together. You've got, you've got some things being spatialized or turned up or down based on your distance to the shed threshold when you're inside, but also interacting with another curve when you're outside. And these things have to overlap in just the right way so that they don't make the sound suddenly jump up or down as you go in or out. Good grief. Man. Oh. Different seek speeds for different parameters interfering with things. You know, for example, I could hear the clock ticking in the shed when I was outside, so I needed to use the is in shed parameter to say only hear the clock ticking when you're in the shed. But then that messed up something else because it used a seek speed which made something else audible when you were inside but not outside. Doable, it's all doable, but man, hassle. Worth it, absolutely worth it. But you know, just lots of things are going to crop up. As you fix one thing or tweak one thing, it's going to make problems for others. It's not scalable. This system is not scalable. This system in a larger map, God forbid an open world game with multiple areas you can go in or out, would be awful to maintain. You know, undoable, I think. And all of these parameters are global parameters, so if you know anything about coding and programming, it's not really ideal to use global parameters because they can be changed by things that shouldn't be changing them. So it's not safe. And I was seeing curves and print logs when I closed my eyes for a couple of weeks, at least a couple of weeks. It took a while, took a good while. But snapshots, I don't think would have been a better alternative. Fabian has just asked if snapshots would be a better alternative. I don't think so, because maybe, actually. I think when I first started doing it, I didn't realise snapshot intensity in FMOD can be automated using parameters. So maybe it is a possibility. But once I got it mostly working, I wasn't going to ditch the whole system and try something else. But simply using snapshots and saying you're in this area, change the mix, it's not simply changing the mix, which is what snapshots do. It's changing spatialization properties of individual events. So yeah, let's wrap up. Do your research. I cannot stress enough how important it was. The number of times I had to do something like make a UI sound for something, and I was like, I don't know how the hell this is supposed to sound. I would go to my little clips that I had made on that wiki and look at them and get inspiration, get ideas instantly. It was so helpful for getting quick inspiration, references, advice, and so on and so forth. So take clips of things and put them down somewhere because they will be helpful. Expose yourself to loads of cool music and audio implementation. If you're making a game which you want to do nice ambient sound for, play games with nice ambient sound. If you want to play games with not so nice ambient sound, check them out. Maybe they still do something interesting. I remember, for example, I was playing Yakuza 6 and I ran up against a wall by accident and I heard the sound change. The ambient sound changed to the interior one even though I was still outside. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that means this game uses audio volumes. It doesn't have a crazy in-depth system for tracking your distance between two audio areas and portaling and stuff like that. It's a very simple system. So in the future, if I were to make a game like Yakuza or any other third-person action adventure kind of thing, I would probably just use audio volumes, because if you're running through 100 different areas in 5 minutes, it's fine, it works, it does the job. But I wouldn't have realised that if I hadn't just played lots of games and listened to them. Take time to implement and play with things. I was very lucky on this project in that I had the time to mess around. And without that time to mess around, I wouldn't have discovered all these nice little things that I could do. The footsteps as you're turning around, the whole ambient transition system, the wet footsteps and stuff like that, having different ambient sound being played from in the forest in the background and having spatialized music element. I wouldn't have discovered all that stuff if I didn't have the time to play with it. If you've got a crazy idea, like my ambience transition system, write it down, plan it a bit. This makes it easier to get help. It was very helpful talking to programmers on my team to say, just to know what kind of tools are available in the game engine which can let you do something. Or maybe they can make something for you in 5 minutes because it's actually quite simple. And then, finally, have fun, make something you can be proud of. I wanted to make something that I was proud of, and I think I did it. You know, it's not the best sounding game in the world. There are a few things in the sound that I don't like, but I was very happy with some of the things I came up with, and I learned a hell of a lot. So, yeah, go and have fun. All right. Thanks for coming along. That is the end of the talk, finally. Just a little bit over time. Yeah, normally I would... These are some of the characters. These are the characters from the game. Lovely looking bunch, aren't they? Yeah, thanks for coming along. I think I might go and hang out in the hangout area section, whatever it is. I don't really think there's time for me to take questions here right now, but I'd be very happy to answer any if you have some. I know that some of the things I said must have come across as a bit complicated or convoluted or confusing or not well explained. So, yeah, I'll go and hang out there for a bit. Thank you very, very much for coming along. It means a lot. And I hope you got something interesting out of it. Hang around here for just a minute. But yeah. Thanks for all the nice comments, everyone. Much appreciated. Of course. Oh, I didn't say. I'll say in the Hangout thing as well. I'll put my Twitter details or something. If anyone has any other questions any other time, I'm always up for talking game audio stuff. All right. Thank you, everyone.